that immediately when someone says workplace culture, you can see the thirsty book behind me, that people are saying, they're calling me as a consultant. Maybe they don't realize that I'm the person who wrote the book. Hey, can you come in and do a workshop? I just read this book, Thirsty. And then they're like, oh my gosh, is that you? So that it's the people get it. And, inside of that book, it's got a fable, but it also has the playbook. So just like many people talk about five dysfunctions of a team, and they talk about Patrick and all of his different books, it would be great to be referenced and to be sought and to be found and to be utilized in that manner.
We have a special guest today, Shelley. Shelley, thank you for joining. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Virginia, the eastern side of the state, near the ocean.
Fantastic. What's been keeping you most energized in your work lately?
I think trying to keep up with all the conversations around all things AI driven and just the world events, the economy, everything, world events.
World events. That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah, trying to be nice.
Yes. Um, okay. I saw that PremierRapport focuses heavily on communication and executive presence. What originally drew you into this space?
So my focus is all things workplace culture. What drew me in was accident, not by accident, I guess. I was talking to my business coach at the time. I just started my firm and focusing in deliberately on the word culture and realizing I'd always been in that space. It was never about the brick and mortar. It was always about the people. And so from there, that focus of I call, the culture matters is how we do what we do when we work together. And so that encompasses the executive coaching, the leadership development, all those things that have to do with the environment of which we work in, our culture.
That's great. As we dive into the journey in business, is there anything you'd prefer off record later? Just let me know. And today is just about having a great conversation.
Sounds good.
Okay. Can you share your journey? How did Premier Report come to life?
Sure. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial home. That word didn't really exist then, but my father was definitely a hustler every single day, and he never really was about working for other people. And he always told my sister and I to always, work for yourself. I didn't really believe him or didn't really follow what he said to do until I was, early. I started shifting a little bit, but I worked for Marriott International for 14 years and then the franchise hotel side for another 8 years with a couple of different partners and woke up literally in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, looked at my husband and said, I don't want to, make the donuts. Meaning it was never about the brick and the mortar. It was always about the people. So I had a conversation with a franchise broker and they pitched things that, this is now 20 years ago, things that were in executive coaching and peer board review. And I said, people make money at that. That was before everybody has a coach. Then if you had a coach, something must be wrong. And now if you don't have a coach, what's wrong with you. And there are many, many coaches. So I got into the space. I purchased a franchise, had it for a year, took a lot of bumps and bruises, and then morphed into what it is that you see today. Premier Rapport was really built around, really predicated on the conversations that I had growing up and didn't realize it, working for a very structured environment like Marriott, and then realizing that I had my own toxic workplace experience in the last couple of franchise companies that I'd worked in. Didn't realize it until I reflected back of why I became disengaged myself. Again, it was never about the brick and mortar. It was always about the people. So I fell into it by accident, not by accident. I never thought that I would get out of the hotel business. And so glad the series of events happened. And, where I'm in the space today, where I get to meet all kinds of people, all kinds of industries, different places from the startup into have been around for, 150 plus years, different size companies as well from that startup of 10 and under into, the groups that I work with that are 14,000 plus. And so it's a good space to be in. And I would say all things COVID really opened up individuals' eyes. I always said culture matters. And so now that feel good, inorganic realization that it's not just a feel good, you can measure it. More people get that and understand that now. So, my space is a good space to be in.
Thank you for sharing. Who is your ideal client today?
Ideal client is usually 250 to maybe 500 employees, multiple locations, typically, a corporate office. that maybe's got different layers, different affiliates. That's kind of the sweet spot. But again, I work with people who are on the startup phase and smaller than that. And then I've got companies who are much, much larger than that. Really, it's about the companies that understand the needs for training and development, understand the needs for workplace culture, understand you can measure it, and it definitely has an impact on your top line and bottom line sales and your sustainability. And companies who are maybe struggling with the turnover, struggling with the retention, what I call the lagging indicators, their dashboard of what they're measuring isn't, green anymore. Or all of a sudden it was green and went to yellow and they miss the leading indicators. I work with companies to help them see what's coming 9 to 12 months ahead of time and making sure that their team is staying hydrated and not becoming thirsty inside of their workplace culture.
Thank you for sharing. Let's see. What does a typical engagement look like?
People come to me in different ways. Sometimes it is, hey, we understand you use predictive index and behavioral assessment. Can that tool really help us with our hiring and selection and retention? So sometimes the call starts off with assessments. Sometimes it's a 360 assessment, an emotional intelligence assessment. And then sometimes it's the call to say, hey, we understand you are the culture guru, you are the curator. Can you come in and assess where we are? Sometimes it is an engagement survey. Sometimes it's a coaching. Hey, do you do executive coaching and team coaching? And then lastly, it's we understand that you help companies create their internal leadership academies. Can you come teach that, the sessions? Can you help us stand that up and turn that over? So those are some of the variety of ways, aside from somebody asking me to come speak at a keynote, a conference or something like that as a speaker. But those are the typical ways that the phone call or the email starts. Occasionally, it is the, "Can you do communication training?" I'm not a big fan of one-off training, so I take those phone calls to find out what's really going on, and then the conversation, kinda goes from there.
Okay. Is your model primarily one-to-one coaching, group workshops, corporate training, or hybrid?
It's all of that, and I'll do that in person or virtually. I've got some groups that are 100% virtual still these days, so we do large training sessions as well virtually, and then, the in the person. But yes, one-on-one, in person or virtual, team, multi-teams, you name it. We cover the gamut.
What's the biggest differentiator between you and the other leadership communication coaches?
Customization. So again, I don't believe in templates and things off the shelf. I tell leaders you need to meet your team where they are, and that's what we do at Premier Rapport as well. We understand who you are. We use your language, your mission, your vision, your values, or help you craft those or pivot those if you need to. But the differentiation is the customization. It is remaining in real time in the trenches, not being far removed, understanding that tools like all things AI can help you, but it's still not the human element. So that connection, that interaction, and again, not just systems and automation, but meeting people with what's happening in their world right now. And a lot of consultants, especially those who have really gone into all things automated and artificial intelligence, are losing that portion. We remain using the smart tools as well as staying connected.
Okay. What major shifts are you seeing in a leadership communication right now?
The shifts in communications, figuring out the AI piece. What skills do we have? What skills do we need? Understanding that it is a tool, or trying to figure out what is it? What are we supposed to do with it? And then how do we assess it? How do we train for it? So a lot of phone calls on skills assessments and understanding, again, that AI is no different from when a fax machine just came out. It's just bigger and moving wider and faster. It's impacting it, asking, how is it impacting us? What do we do to train people? How do we use it? And how do we remain solid, in our culture along the way? So there's those AI first initiatives on top of culture first initiatives or people first initiatives. And you can't lose sight because all of a sudden your culture will shift in not necessarily a healthy way. People are in fear of what is AI going to do to me personally in my job and the impact of my world, as a whole. And you've got to make sure that you're communicating what it is you really want to communicate as a leader in order to keep the calm, to be able to truly skill people up. If that's really what you mean when you bring it in, that your words matter, and how you take action around that matters too. So that is a huge lift from a communication standpoint right now.
And those worries of people about AI are not unfounded.
Correct.
uh, Has remote work changed how executives need to communicate?
Absolutely. Sometimes I'll get a call or I'll read an article that says, and definitely the first, second, and third year post all things March of 2020, people say, we don't have a culture, we're hybrid or we're 100% remote. Oh, yeah, you have a culture, all right. You still have to communicate, you still have to train, you still have to meet people where they are, just in a virtual setting. So it's definitely different. It definitely shifts, and a lot of companies find it very difficult, but you still have to define what right looks like when we're on a virtual phone call. How do we interact? What tools are we using, to make it interactive, for example? How do we problem solve when we're not sitting at the boardroom table with one another, but we're on a phone call, Teams chat, or on a virtual call? So it's really defining what do we do, how we do when we communicate in a virtual world, and again, aligning it to core values. So if teamwork or collaboration or innovation is a part of your core values, you still do that. It just doing it a little bit different through the tool that you're using from a virtual standpoint. Does that make sense?
That definitely makes sense. Absolutely. Let's see. Are leaders struggling more with presence, persuasion, or clarity?
Yes, yes, and yet I don't know if it's one more than the other. If you don't have clarity, it's difficult to persuade because you don't know what you're persuading for, or you're leaning people in the wrong direction. Executive presence is that if there's executive presence and then there's being present. So I'm not sure, which one you're saying there, but those are both challenging as well. I don't know if you've got a follow up, but all of those are challenging right now for leaders.
Okay. How do you see AI impacting communication training right now?
In a lot of ways. Number one, you've got to ask, what do you mean by good communication and what do you mean by the use of AI? You also, if you're using AI to clean up your language, for example, if that's what you mean by that, you've got to make sure it doesn't change your tone and who you are. Because if I'm very formal in my literate writing, but then you meet me and I'm super informal, which one of those is the real you? So using AI in clear communication coupled with the tone that you want the communication to come back to, still the authentic you, is really, really important. And you can tell whatever AI agent you're using to do that, and you still have to go in and tweak because it can also change the message that you're trying to send if you're just taking it as the gospel truth and not editing. I think that's a big trip up that people are either overly embracing AI in all things and say the output is 100% and they're not going back to ask it, prompting to say, what am I missing? What do you need to ask me? What could somebody challenge? In any of those pieces, if you're not asking it just like you would an employee, then you're missing the boat and you're using the tool wrong, or you're dismissing it because it's not right. And the reality is you didn't give it the right prompt, which is no different than you ineffectively delegating to a live human being. If you don't give it all the information, you're at risk of not getting what you want. It's no different. One you're typing or telling an AI agent, the other one you're telling an employee. Same thing. Same risk is there.
That's why Claude is kind of taking off right now because even if you don't give it the proper content, well, if you don't give it enough context, it still has, if you set it up properly, it has enough intelligence to create skills, plans, context to actually execute something properly, even without
Yes,
enough context.
but you said something critical. If you set it up properly,
Yes, you have to set it up
that's
properly once, though. Yes.
that's the key. Again, which is no different than clarifying expectations with a human. If you don't set it up properly, you're not gonna get, "Hey, I use Claude on the daily. I'm a Claude lover." So you're not gonna, but it comes down to, did you set it up properly? Just wanted to reinforce that.
Okay, sounds good. Do you think AI will enhance executive presence or dilute authenticity?
Dilute authenticity, hands down.
That was a short answer.
Honest.
All right. Let's see. What's working extremely well for Premier Reports right now?
Extremely well. I think messaging. I think the consistent messaging, authenticity, meeting people where they are, remaining not just relevant, but above the curve. We are known for a one stop source for people to come and ask me what trends are coming, what's being forecasted. People do come to me for what tools are you using? Hey, do this or that? Being a trusted advisor source works well for us. It has, and it continues to work well for us.
Okay. What's been frustrating or harder than expected?
Getting leaders to understand that AI is not a plug and play one and done. And again, clarifying what do we need to use? How do we need to use it? What are we communicating to our team? How are we educating our team on how to use it, even if it's a setup once, to your point? It's challenging when it used to be the phone call of, I need communication training. Okay, what do you mean by that? And sort of unpacking that. You just can't say, come train me on communication. Now that is, what do I need to know and what's the impact on AI? How do I communicate? How do I educate? It used to be that people didn't understand, well, what is workplace culture? I don't get those calls anymore. People understand what culture is and the importance of it. So those are some before and some shifts.
Okay. Where are most of your clients coming from?
Word of mouth. I have gone to starting the business, a lot of networking, have my clients, have the referrals. And then, the other challenging piece is always staying relevant. There's so much out there that is automated that if you're not keeping up on the different social platforms and how to effectively use it, you get lost in what's now, AI SEO. If you're not doing that properly, people think that you're not there anymore and you're not easily found. So I also think going back to your previous, that's a challenge. So I think helping, not just us do that, but sorting through that for clients, again, of what important is where we're at right now and what needs to be done right now.
Are you currently more focused on growth, impact, or operational refinement?
Ooh, that's a good question. We're doing a lot of operational refinement because of all things AI. Always looking for continued growth. And what was the third thing that you said? You said growth, systems refinement. And what was the other thing? Current impact. Always want to add value. If we ever stop adding value to our current clients, then I believe the growth will also slow, if not stop as well, because you're only as good as your reputation.
Exactly. What metrics matter most to you this year? Revenue, reach, retention, or authority?
Revenue with profit is why we're in business, but I think it's driven from your retention and your reputation. So, yeah, I mean, we're in business to survive and thrive and make money, so I can't ignore that, but you have to have the reputation and the impact in order to get the revenue. So, the focus is the reach to be found, to be understood as the authority and the source. The other stuff comes.
Okay. If you could streamline one area of your business tomorrow, what would it be?
Well, it would be the ease of people finding me in order to have the growth. I think if anybody, there's a lot of noise out there of we can do this for you. But if someone has found the magic thing, I think everybody would be on board with that. I think depending your industry, your size, where you're at, what you're doing, I don't think there's a shortcut to to get there. But I wish that that could be done and could be easy. None of it's easy to get there. A lot of learning curves and a lot of spending money to figure out how to get there as well.
Basically, just guess my next question. If you had a magic wand and could fix one bottleneck in your business right now, what would it be?
I don't know that I would categorize it as a bottleneck, just as more as the ease of being found. Lessening of the selling cycle, the close cycle. I will say that when it's word of mouth, close cycle's easy because you've been recommended by a trusted, person, but to open the floodgate without, the word of mouth, I think is I don't know, I would call it a bottleneck, but it's always a fight that's real.
So basically, I'm assuming it's marketing related, more clients,
It's
better reach.
Yep, always. Again, everybody's got ideas on how to do it. It doesn't work for everyone that's out there. If it could and it would, everybody would be doing it.
Everybody's got a plan which is, effective, streamlined, easy, and doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. How long has it been something you wanted to improve?
That ever since in business, that's always how do I find the clients in the quickest, easiest way, the least expensive way from time and physical money.
Makes sense.
Every owner wants that. Every board wants that.
Where do you want PremierRapport to be in 12 months from now?
Where do I want it to be? Leader in the industry.
Okay. Can you elaborate? Like maybe
So, that immediately when someone says workplace culture, you can see the thirsty book behind me that people are saying, they're calling me as a consultant. Maybe they don't realize that I'm the person who wrote the book. Hey, can you come in and do a workshop? I just read this book, Thirsty. And then they're like, oh my gosh, Is that you? So that it's the people get it. Inside of that book, it's got a fable, but it also has the playbook. So just like many people talk about five dysfunctions of a team, and they talk about Patrick and all of his different books, it would be great to be referenced and to be sought and to be found and to be utilized in that manner. Does that further clarify?
It definitely does. Thank you. Let's see here. Would you ever productize your methodology into digital programs, certifications, or AI assisted training tools?
Yes, and I've already done all of those at some way, shape, and form. Yes.
What would success look like at the end of this year?
Around that, if the culture curator certification, the CPCC, was as well known as SHRM certifications, or SHRM purchased my certification to bring into theirs to be a certified professional culture curator.
That's amazing. Let's see here. I got some deeper questions. So, can executive presence actually be taught or is it innate?
It's both. I think some people come to the table with a little bit more than others naturally. But yes, you absolutely can teach it. It really comes down to the taught and the application of it and a person's self awareness in order to lean into it and to know how to adjust because there's a lot of gray inside of how someone describes executive presence and the environment that you're in of what presence is allowed as well. But yes, you come to the table with some and it can absolutely be taught and amplified.
What's the biggest communication mistake leaders make under pressure?
Either telling people what to do too much, too authoritarian, or being too lax and kind of folding into the background because of being stifled maybe with the risk or the decision. And so they become paralyzed and frozen. So too much of either on either side of that. And I've seen both and I work with
Have you ever coached someone who completely transformed how they show up?
100%, numerous times, hundreds of times. Yes. Yes.
That's a lot to hear. What's one habit every leader should eliminate immediately?
Busy being busy, putting things in your calendar that have no relevance to whatever goal is you're trying to establish. Busy being busy.
Straight to the point. If you could give 60-second communication tip to every CEO listening, what would that be?
Listen more. You've got 2 ears and one mouth. Listen more. Ask questions. Listen to the response and take action. We don't do enough tending, detecting, restoring, and tending to the people that work for us and actually get the work done. That's what I would say. You do pay people to think. Treat them as such.
What's a belief you once held about leadership that you've changed your mind on?
Early on, I was taught to not to get too close to the team, kind of don't let them see you sweat, not have that vulnerability, so to speak. And that's not true. I mean, there are lines that you don't want to cross, employee to employer, but you do need to be open as a leader. You do need to be vulnerable. You do need to let them know when you don't know. It is okay to make a mistake and to say you've made a mistake. It is okay to know personal things about your teammates and that they know personal things about you. I would say that that's probably the biggest shift.
Okay. Let's see. That's pretty much all the list of deep questions I've had. And as you were asking the questions, I had basically just flashes of things which I worked on before.
Okay.
So that was actually a fantastic podcast. So something you said about acquiring clients or basically getting a word out there or whatever somebody thinks of company culture and they think of your book, that stood out.
Hmm.
That's actually something we found founders and professional service providers solve through AI systems and growth automation.
Hmm.
Basically systems that either I've deployed or have seen that in the community. And actually, I can give you a couple examples.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing this a lot. And we actually, the team and I have been building out something very similar to that. This goes back to your comment. There's a lot of people saying we have this, and this. And then the noise of if everybody's doing it, it's just like when we first started getting the ability
Phones.
to text message. You could text message and everybody would reply because they knew it was a personal person. Well, then all of a sudden now everybody is on text message. So we're at that. It's still kind of new, but that's getting saturated really fast. And unfortunately, you can tell when you're on, and this is a question for you, by the way, because of what you're selling to me right now, is the immediate response. So I'm a person, I am immediate responder to all emails. I've always been, even if it's just K. meaning I got your message. Now, when I get those automatic multiple sentences, I'm like, this is an automated system and it's an immediate turn off that I decide to either further engage or it infuriates me. And so now, my question is, how do you stop the automation being too automated that people are able to tell that's not really Art who's talking? That's his system who is talking.
Fantastic question. You update the FAQ page for the bot. So
Okay.
whenever before it replies to a question, you'll consult the FAQ page, which will tell them your messages should be this length. You need to humanize the messages. If you want to control in, if you want to control in a couple of mistakes there, so it seems like it's coming from a person.
Yeah, exactly. Occasionally. All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. Look forward to the continued conversation.
Sounds good. Have a fantastic day. That was a pleasure.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.